you have any ideas, we can try to help you carry them out. With that, I give you our beloved brother Phil Valentine.
That's good. What's up?
What's up?
Yeah. Forgive my tardiness.
I don't have that.
They stopped the train at Jamaica. Long rush. Military, full-on military. Ain't nobody saying that. When I'm asking what my destination was, I said heaven by the side of the most high. Smile. He knows what he can't do it for. It's gotten crazy. I was asked to speak on one of my favorite topics, that being the
Right, come on close. That's it.
it's much better. Felt estranged.
Right.
I was asked to speak about a topic that was very, very dear to me, very close to me, because I had become extremely vociferous much earlier than most people were into this. And I kept up the fight to show people that with enough money, with enough strategic promotion, with enough tenacity, you could get the public to believe anything. And this was well done. Every time, or every year that goes by, I see more and more sophisticated ways of promoting this farce. Because as one generation goes forward, there's always a next generation. And more, we have not been teaching our children. We've let the state take care of them. So now when they want to generate capital, they can push it now because there's a whole new crop of young saplings ready to be bent and shaped in the way of the state. So I'm kind of glad that during the time that they had the AIDS Awareness Week, I was asked to speak at a number of places, private places, for people who were very high up in their particular and specific quarters. When Brother X asked me to speak on AIDS, I jumped on it right away because no matter where that is, I want to bring awareness as much as possible. It's just that I see that I'm constantly speaking to the choir. Every place I go, I see the familiar faces of brothers and sisters who are kind of the war-weary warriors. Tenacious, strong, keeping at it, but no new faces looking to ask questions. So I don't know where to begin based upon what it is that most people might know or might not know. So what I do essentially is to do my best is to read what I have. It's because I've broken down and made synapses of a lot of the information that I've accrued since 1986. And those of you who have a memory remember that in 1986 came out and said AIDS was bullshit, excuse the expression. It's nonsense. Simply because the information, the way they say it was lethal, how it was lethal to the body, was completely against cosmic law, immutable law, the laws that govern the human temple. What I knew and what I studied as a scientist, a hygienic scientist, Doctor of Hygienic Sciences, showed me that everything that they said did not fit. And that there were too many political, opportunistic moments that just dovetailed right into this new epidemic that suddenly popped up. It just didn't make any sense. But of course, there were a lot of people aligned to join in with the argument of the state, so they knew they were going to make money, and I knew it was about money because, as I said to everyone, 6 months before the announcement of AIDS or Cameron in the black community, Kanya Vashon McGee, or Kanya Kukumba from the Tree of Life, I had a closer association with the brother because that's where I mentored in his shop. He told me that he was approached because he used to work on Wall Street. People didn't know that he was a stockbroker. And he dealt in trade and fiduciary instruments. So he had some inside track to some of the newer forms of properties that would be put out on the market. And he told me, and another brother named Yusef, he told Dr. Moore at that time, that some Wall Street bigs had called him up and said, since he was in the black community, would he like to invest in a set of new products, new drugs, that will be the new drug for this new disease that suddenly has come out. That they had Robaron, Interferon, and all these different interferon therapies that they were about to push in the black community. I looked over the prospectus and I said, wow, how do they know how many people are expected to die or to catch this disease? What is it that they are now trying to promote into the black community to get us to adopt? Now, it could be very lethal depending on the way you look at it. So, when they announced it and put all the information about AIDS out, I had to step back. I didn't make any announcements back in 1994, 95, because I studied 94 and 95. They made the announcement in 94. I stepped back because I didn't know what we were dealing with. 95, I was still studying and researching. It wasn't until 96 that I came out and said, no, nothing's happened. Here's what the deal really is. But by that time, the momentum had picked up in the black community because we had WLIB with Percy Sutton being given enormous amounts of funds to promote it on an AM station because they knew it was a serious black station. WBLS had some big monies from the government and from the pharmaceuticals to push Cameron into the black community. So I had to align myself against this juggernaut. And there were a lot of brothers and sisters in the community who said, okay, they get ready to come at us, it's genocide. So I said, wait a minute, maybe they're right. Let me study this genocidal biowarfare scenario and let me get into it. And the thing is, the problem was maybe 0.7% less than that of the black population does research. 99% of the brothers and sisters would listen to what it was that the media would say. And because they studied us so well, they knew that if they put it on BAI or LIB, that we would automatically pick it up. So here I am aligning myself against what seems to be the consensus agreement of black community that, hey, biowarfare had reached us. So when I made the announcement, at that time, the representatives for the Cameron product had come to a sister named Akuya Ma'at, and a number of other black leaders or influential brothers and sisters in the grassroots community, because they were coming at all of us. They studied us well. They came at the grassroots leaders. They came at the political leaders. They came at the entertainers. So they were having a multi-pronged propaganda attack and an assault on the black community psyche. Because I knew the sister who they approached in the black community, Sister Aquia, I asked her to hold up on becoming a representative drug pusher for the pharmaceuticals in our community until I have shown you what I have found. And it was back at the time, I believe in 86 or 87, that I held my first of what would have been for 7 to 8 years called the Gathering of the Masters. But at this time it was about AIDS, hoax or reality. And we had a great crowd. And at that time, I deconstructed Strecker's memorandum and showed where it was a lie. It was counter-science, anti-science. It was science based on belief structures. I had to tell them that the scientists and the whole medical church was forged and was developed during the Inquisition of Europe. So what is European medical science today had its beginning during the Inquisitions in Europe. Because during that time, the priests of the Vatican would make sure that they had to edit every book or every type of learning that went out to the people, because during that time it was the Dark Ages. So they had all these incredible, ridiculous types of belief structures around what the body is, around what would heal, what would cure, because remember, they were dropping like flies from the Black Plague. And they had a plague every other year. So with that type of mentality, that's how we had to approach, that's how I approached medical science as a church with a set of belief structures that did not have anything to do with true science. And when I approached it in that way, gave my presentation, the sister said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not pushing it. Now, the backlash, because after that meeting, people went out and began saying, hey, this don't make no sense. Here's what it is. The reason why is because the people did not have the proper information to mount a proper counteroffensive. They really did not know what the body was about, how the body functioned, so how it is that a virus could not attack a cell. That the whole virus myth is a carryover from the days of gremlins and spooks and oogie men. It now carried over now into these subatomic entities that you could never see because you don't have an electron microscope in your bedroom. So you had to believe what was being said to you. So after I've shown that the body itself, being what it is, could never be attacked, it was over. The war was on. I was attacked over the radio, in many of the natural healing forums. And then after everything was said and done, thankfully, more information and evidence began to come out, this time from the white community. Now, you know, we believe when white man says, this is what we have found, everybody's saying, oh my God, did you hear that? But I'm yelling and screaming, spitting in the wind, nothing.
White man's ice is cold.
Exactly, it's colder. So, I've become very familiar with all of the tactics. And it's war. It's a war for the mind. And if there's anyone here who has a pet question about AIDS that just seems to keep coming back no matter what it is you hear, please raise your hand. Yes?
I mean, it's more than a pet question, because I'm sitting here, this is my first time here, so I was trying to follow the timeline. So I was getting confused between 86 and 96. Then I'm not clear if you're saying that AIDS is not a bona fide disease, or that some drug camera is not a genuine cure deal with it. I'm not sure what.
Oh, okay.
Says.
First and foremost, AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome is an acronym, which means that it is simply a catalog. Because it is a catalog, it is telling you that one disease or one cause can cause 29 symptoms, or actually 39 symptoms. This is unprecedented in the realms of medical science. It has never occurred before on planet Earth. One disease causal factor creating more than 39 different symptoms. Never before, but we weren't thinking. Now, what disease out of the 39 does Cameron cure? No one asked the question. If I have chickenpox, there is something called the gold standard, whereby purifying a specimen of the blood, you will find the agent that is the causative factor. That particular technique was called post postulus. It was written Koch, but post postulus. Koch postulus stated that if the agent that caused the disease is the true agent, it will be evident at the time the disease was initiated, during the course of the disease, and the evidence of it will be found in serum afterwards. But in this case, with AIDS, there is no evidence because no one has ever isolated HIV. HIV has never been isolated in the laboratory. So what are we fighting? Now, slick as they are, a piece of information, what do? Luc Montagnier, or Gallo, releases a picture of the virus. But what was it? It was found that it was nothing more than cellular debris, organelles. So there is no such thing as HIV. And if there is HIV, and whatever antibodies or whatever tests they have to create a positive is based upon non-specific antibodies. In other words, you can have a grouping of antibodies from a series of diseases or flu shots, multipartum, in other words, women who've had 2 or more children. If you have pneumonia at any time, if you just had the flu, you can have a positive reading.
So, theoretically, any antigen they can't identify in my body, they can say it's HIV.
Well, you see, that's the thing. The test is non-specific. If you have more of the non-specific than the rest of the person, you can get an HIV positive. The problem is, we don't, everybody, now check this out. Anybody who saw Dr. Geraldo, who came from out of, I believe, he was from South America. He was the head of his medical association at the time. He found that when the CDC sent him the testing kits, one odd specific information piece was attached to that. What was that? That odd information piece was that you had to dilute the patient's blood 400 to 600 times before you took the test. Never before in the history, never before in the history of medicine did he ever hear that. This man was trained in London, England, France, all over the place, Kansas. Never before did you have to dilute the person's blood nearly 400 to 800 times before you took the test. Or what? Everybody would be HIV.
Right.
The test alone betrays how we've been betrayed. Because you can't catch something that is not there. The very acronym doesn't make sense. It's a contradiction in terms. What does acquired mean? You got it. What does immune mean? You can't get it. What does deficiency mean? You don't have it. What does syndrome mean? You might get it. They put it under your nose. You know what they say. You want to hide anything from black folks, put it in a book. Yes?
So then what are people dying that they're saying is AIDS?
Good point.
Is cat.
A cure.
Exactly. The problem is, how do you wipe out a certain amount of black folks while not getting them suspicious to how you are conducting the war on them? You make them voluntarily walk into the gas chamber. You make them voluntarily walk into the Mengele doctors. The doctors are just as stupid because they only get information or orders from higher up and carry on the protocol as handed down from the mother church. So if you do not know or you are not aware of how this farce is being promoted, you are not told. So, but you see, it's even deeper because you got brothers, a specific brother named Boyd E. Graves, or Boyd S. Graves. And I empathize with the brother. Being a homosexual, he must have been tortured. And he's ostracized by his community. But he's on a crusade because he thinks he has found the real reason behind the problem. Something called, anybody know? The Special Virus Program. Now, the Special Virus Program was allegedly implemented by a special act of Congress. And I want to read a few things that he has said. And you have to decode how people who have been infected by the virus of propaganda passes it on. Even in their words, they know not what they say. Because with a deeper study of how the body works, you would enter and understand exactly what it is that he is not saying, or has somehow overlooked. He says, my name is Boyd Graves and I have AIDS. First and foremost, if he says that, he's lost. He's already been cataloged as part of the casualty of war. If he says I have AIDS, he's looking for sympathy for those who believe in it. Last September, I filed a suit against the U.S. for the creation, production, and proliferation of the AIDS virus. I can agree with him because the AZT, the acyclovir, the DDI, the DDL, all give AIDS. That's the drugs that they give you when you have HIV. So you see how you have to decode before you move on and believe. Stop and read everything very carefully. I submitted to the U.S. Federal Court, page 129 of U.S. House Bill 15090. It is the U.S. Pentagon's incriminating testimony about creating a new virus. Yes, we know that the Pentagon, we know that the military of all shapes and sizes are at war with peoples of color all over the world. But how do you conduct? What is the strategy? How can they conduct a campaign against you and be efficacious in doing so? What's the kill ratio based upon the ballistics that they're using? And in this case, if it's germ warfare, what is the etiology? What is the killing ratio? How is it done in such a way that they are guaranteed a certain amount of bodies? Well, when you find out about the way you conduct chemical and biological warfare, the first thing you have to do is to conduct chemical warfare, and then you add the biological after the people's defense system has been compromised by the chemicals. So biochemical warfare is actually chemical bio warfare or chemobio warfare. And how do they do it? Well, just go down to your neighborhood store and look at all the crap that they put into your community. The stuff that's in this community that you would never find in another community. Look at the stuff that they give children to eat on their way to school. These multicolored, toxic drinks that are more chemicals than they are juice. What is it that they are putting into the community? What do you smoke? Cigarettes. They have some brilliant commercials about cigarettes where they have this guy all in a suit that where he wouldn't go into the place because it's so toxic. Dude comes up with a camera and says, "What do you do?" He says, "Well, I deal with acetates and acetones." He says, "Is it toxic?" "Very toxic." He says, "Well, would you wear anything around it without that suit?" He said, "No." He said, "Why?" He said, "Because I can cause cancer." He said, "Do you know that acetone, acetate is in cigarettes?" He froze. Because he probably smoked. So, we are killing ourselves based on our ignorance, and they're helping us along. All they have to do is convince you that you are dying from something or that you are under attack, just like yellow, red, green, blue, orange alert. Every time they want to make money and crank up the panic in everyone, they tell you that AIDS is it now. It's becoming more lethal. Look out, everybody. AIDS is around the corner. Watch your step. Negroes will be peeping around the corner in a minute looking for AIDS. And that's the truth. Now, he goes on to say, now we have progress reports of a hidden federal program entitled Special Virus. The Special Virus program began in 1962, according to progress reports. The program inoculated monkeys with human viruses and then released them into the wilds of Africa. The U.S. owns a primate colony in Uganda. In Progress Report 8, 1971, we have discovered a paper by Dr. Robert Gallo that is identical to his 1984 announcement of the co-discoverer of AIDS. I have been called by the Pentagon and the Center for Disease Control out of Atlanta. However, nothing compares to the incriminating testimony the Pentagon gave on June 9, 1969. On June 9th, the Pentagon admits that it was doing research on an offensive biological weapon that would lead to a worldwide scourge and Black Death type plague in certain geological areas of the world. The major press in the U.S. refuses to view the Pentagon testimony or the progress reports of this hidden federal program. Even the U.S. federal court set aside the direct evidence and ruled this to be frivolous. The world is awakening to the devastating effects of the man-made HIV retrovirus that are methodically annihilating one continent's population after another. Although some of the top world scientists know without any shadow of a doubt who is behind this diabolical genocidal assault on mankind, nothing is being done to rectify this mass murder. And he says, if you are opposed to state-sanctioned premeditated murder, get involved until you are chosen to be called. Sincerely, Boyd S. Graves, Director, AIDS Concern, the Common Cause Foundation. Now, he said, their propaganda, their periodic propaganda can only distract and confuse people for so long. Millions now realize that AIDS, as well as other immune system-related disorders, listen, AIDS, as well as other immune system disorders, including chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, lupus, multiple sclerosis, and many more neuralgic injuries, including autism, attention deficit, and hyperactivity disorders in children, along with several unique contemporary cancer epidemics, including lymphomas, leukemias, and sarcomas, are largely vaccine-induced injuries. He contradicted himself. How many vaccinations did this brother get? What did he believe, and how many drugs is this brother taking? Kimberly Regalis. Ever heard the name? Turn that back on a little bit.
Oh, plug it down. Affects the sound a little.
Oh, it does?
Yes.
It's just a little while. Kimberly Regalis. Anybody heard that word? Anybody know who she was? She's the girl that supposedly caught AIDS from the dentist. Has anybody heard about that? Kimberly Regalis was iatrogenically murdered on national TV. What do I mean by that? Iatrogenic murder is death by doctor. They had to make a case in the white community. They had to make a case that everybody was affected. By the time Kimberly Regalis was dead, she was on 16 different AIDS chemotherapy drugs. Let me say that again. By the time Kimberly Regalis was dead, she was on 16 different AIDS drugs. And do you know what the original diagnosis was? Yeast infection. Now, I empathize with the brother about finding information, but if you conduct biological warfare, you will find that biological warfare itself cannot be conducted because the agents used in biowarfare are very, very weak. They cannot live in a host, especially a healthy host.
Break it down.
If the host is healthy, 9 times out of 10, he may or she may get sick, but that is the body shutting down all other functions to deal with the problem. The problem is, we believe the hysteria. And of course I'm down for saying anything. Yeah, white man is conducting war, yeah, right. But how are we to reconnoiter his tactics? Are we just to listen and say, white man after us, take this instead of that? Then we are all doomed. If we keep believing the hype without taking the time, if we do not understand the methodology of warfare and understand how tactics may and may not work, then we will fall for anything. We will have problems because we will believe what we don't understand. And we have a tendency to deal with rumor mongering, which is rampant in our community. Everybody knows that I've been under attack for a lot of times for every, I don't know, I'm probably down with the Kennedy assassination. So, what I'm going to do, if you want to see this, it's deep because if you saw this, it's very interesting. Horror of $20 million HIV goop. Woman went to a place in Bed-Stuy, I believe, got an AIDS test, positive, whole life went in the toilet. She just prepared to die. Came back, found out she didn't have it. I'm under trauma. I want 20 mil. Now they will follow this farce, even though they know it's BS, and they'll pay the money because they have to keep it going. This is chump change. HIV miracle for boy of 5. Completely destroyed the myth that if mama got HIV, baby got HIV. But they say it's a miracle. Lies. Because this is not the exception to the rule. The baby coming out with HIV would be the exception to the rule. Why? Because babies are born, quote unquote, immune from mama. Miracle! See, what I'm showing you is how they propagate the myth. There's one more, and it got to do with one of our folks. This is one of my favorite. By 2010, AIDS may leave 20 million African orphans. Yeah, if you're in there destroying the food supply, polluting the water supply, killing off people, causing wars, 500 years of slavery, stress, of course there are going to be more people suffering from all kinds of different diseases. But get this, what constitutes HIV in Africa is not the same as HIV here in America. HIV in Africa, you may have it if you simply have a fever. You can have HIV if you have diarrhea. You can be classified with HIV for anything that has been happening to us as people for the last, umpteen thousand years. But now it's a disease to have diarrhea. So how do you compensate for the lies that you're committing, the murder you're committing, the genocide you're committing in Africa, poverty that you've created, the malnutrition? You say that poverty and malnutrition is now a disease because the effects of poverty and malnutrition have now become the classification for HIV/AIDS. When your body has been compromised, if your body has been robbed of or denied proper nutrition, proper rest, stressless environments, love, all of these break down your defense system. And let me just be clear, there is no such thing as an immune system. Immune or immunity is a lawyer's word for you can get away with anything you want by doing anything. In immutable law, you cannot get away with bad behavior. You cannot get away with behavior contradictory to law. I'm going to put some information that you may want to put down as far as getting notes out here today so that somebody else had a question. I remember. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. You said that there is a war being played. What's their ultimate goal in this war?
The ultimate
killing us off. Like, what's the goal behind it?
The ultimate goal is depopulation.
What's the reason behind it?
Resources. Africa is sitting upon a wealth, billions of dollars of resources. Trinidad alone now has been tabulated as the new Saudi Arabia for the oil that got down. The whole place is resource rich in Africa. And the people that are sitting on these resources, you don't want to hand that much power, the economic power that these people are sitting on, you don't want to give it to them. So instead what you would do is you would create friction inside of that country, like the Hutu and the Tutsi. That was France behind that, by the way, because right before the slaughter, they airlifted all the weapons, dropped off the weapons by parachute before the slaughter and genocide began. Then, before that happened, they disarmed all of the people who were the Tutsi. Was it the Tutsi or the Hutu? Got slaughtered. See? Tutsi, right? They disarmed them. They went into their homes and demanded their cutlasses, their spears, any small arms, weapons. You couldn't even have a fork. That's exactly what they did in Haiti. And we got Negroes out there telling people to give up their guns. We want a safe America. No. Depopulation, getting rid of the useless eaters, as we are called. Getting rid of competition in the birth cycle. And you have to remember that they want to start the new paradigm owning everything. They want to retard logical critical thinking, so they destroyed the education system. Once people don't know how to ask the proper questions, how to decipher what is being said when words are being spoken, they do not know, they know there's a problem, but they don't know how to solve it. So they look to experts trained by those who created the problem. It's called the Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution. You create all three scenarios. So you want to get, see, the cancer industry for 40 years and $40 billion still didn't come up with a cure. In 1976, when Reagan's wife caught cancer, they found out that Reagan was going to be president and that Reagan was going to deregulate the cancer industry, and everybody went hog-ass wild. What are we going to do? We can't dip our hands into the community coffers anymore. So what did they do? They took everything, all of the protocols from the failed cancer industry, and took it lock, stock, and barrel and created the new AIDS industry. In fact, some of the very same people, Luc Montagnier, Gallo, all of them worked for the cancer industry before they became partners with the AIDS industry. This is not an accident. Now the brother Boyd S. Graves is trying to find this conspiracy, and I'm all for conspiracies, but get it right. You have to convince people that they have sicknesses and diseases. You have to bombard them consistently with the lie. And the bigger the lie, and the more you push it, the more it's believed. Now, since you children can't think in school anymore, you tell the children, use condoms. Latex condoms will protect you from AIDS. But now, the cervical cancers began to rise, yeast infections, all these things because of latex. What is latex? Well, we found out latex is a talc that has the same consistency as asbestos. Because they found out that people wearing the latex gloves in the hospitals were breaking out. Some people were near to death. Now you're going to strap that on to the soldier, and you're going to place it inside of the woman where she is the most vulnerable. So ignorance is propagating this. And we are doing it upon ourselves, and they have enough money to continue it. Now, here I am, one little voice, and maybe there's a bunch of other, black and white folks who's out there saying it. Who am I? What do I have as proof? Except what they themselves can come out with. Now, I can give you proof based upon what my studies are, which is hygienic sciences, which is what our ancient ancestors taught to the world. Why it is that the blood cannot be attacked unless you attack it from the inside with vaccinations. And this is exactly what Boyd S. Ray said, that all the diseases he named were based on vaccination paradigms. Yes?
Okay.
Well, hold on for a second. This brother had it.
I got one.
Yeah.
I want to kind of follow up with the question of what I see as to why we're doing this, and you kind of you really alluded to the point I made. It's clearly a question of my personal beliefs is that there is an attack on the depopulation of the black community. One is because the Europeans are now procreating at a lesser rate than any other ethnic race in the world. With that being said, I think the more that things happen, the more they can lose themselves as a larger populace, particularly in certain areas where more people, quote-unquote, immigrants are moving into, such as Europe. And I think if they're finding themselves becoming more, over a period of time, they will start to lose themselves in numbers, and I think they're terrified of that. Also, get back to the point you said of Africa. Africa is the richest continent in the world with natural resources. They are postulating themselves to a point that they can go back and recolonize Africa. This $45 billion that Bush is now, and the G8 is.
You can go up on the website.
Right, and there's no question that really is to open up Africa to the transnational multi-corporations.
That's the G8's plan.
Exactly. When we have Germany and Israel and Canada and China and the Sudan who are committing the atrocity here behind the scenes, putting money into the hands of the jungle elites, so it doesn't look like they're committing those acts of aggression themselves, right, as they're doing through in Nigeria. So to kind of expound upon the point that Professor Valentine said, it's a multiplicity reason why they're doing it.
The problem also is,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a deadline to that plan?
the deadline pretty much is this October here. This October there's going to be some very interesting things happening that you better get ready for. Yeah. I don't want to get off the point, but just to give you a couple of things to think about. Since 1789, anybody saw my Tetragrammaton tape? Did you see me talk about the fact that we went into bankruptcy starting in 1789? That the United States Corporation was created in 1789 and it began in bankruptcy. And that when a nation is in bankruptcy, it refinances and reservices its debts every 70 years. In 1933, that was one of the 70-year times, they took everything from the American people and gave it into the bankers of the Federal Reserve in order to service the debt. Last 1997 or 96, no, 2004 was the year of the indigenous man, where the land that we're sitting on became fee simple, which meant that if you had a superior claim to the land, you could now claim the land. But who knew about that? Now, the last G8 summit, not this one, but the one before that, one of the formers of the Federal Reserve System, who was sitting in the meeting, said to everyone was there, all the leaders of the world, of the European world, pull the plug. We are no longer going to service this. Well, they said, well, can Japan buy more of our dollars? No, it's over, he said. Bullet, let it crash. We have been in chapter 11 since 1789. Even Trafficante, remember the dude who went to jail? He announced in Congress, ladies, brothers, ladies and gentlemen, we are here in chapter 11. Now, here's the deal. As of October, we are no longer in chapter 11. We are now in chapter 7. Chapter 7 means liquidation of all assets. America is for sale, including you. Now, the bill is due to the international bankers. America is now a service-oriented country, and it is the enforcer for the World Bank, the IMF, and the 7 families ruling the planet. We're not even talking about galactic situations that's also coming down. Get into that another time in August. I'm doing a lecture with Brother Sarnetta. We'll speak on that. But they are going to be rounding up folks for the concentration camps because you are worth more incarcerated than you are eating the food, having random activities in a society that needs to be more controlled. The monies and the taxes, everything. The reason why you're paying $2.50 for regular, it's going up to $3 and $4, $5 for regular. The dollar that you've been using this long no longer has any worth. So they are going after your security account. If you have a Social Security card, look at the back at the red numbers. That is your bank account. The bank account set up at the time that your mother wrote up your birth certificate and filed it with the Human Resource Administration. Your birth certificate is a fiduciary instrument used to leverage as well as discharge debt internationally under the UCC.
What red numbers are you referring to?
If you don't have it, you should tell them that you lost one and go back and get another one, and you will get the new Social Security cards, and you will see. Because I'm getting all my paperwork together in order to give it up.
But when you say they're going to round us up,
Literally.
how are they going?
Didn't they recently have like a roundup a few months ago?
Yes.
They had like a roundup, a whole bunch of so-called felonies and all this stuff.
Those were excuses to cover the war against the white patriots. Because the patriots know what time it is. Give you another secret. Sandra Day O'Connor just retired. Check.
Yeah.
Why did she retire? Does anybody know? If they know, be quiet. Let the other people who don't know. Because I told you what happened. You know that ain't fair.
Right.
Family issues. Okay, let me tell you what happened. White people are now going crazy. They are now flipping out in the Midwest. Why? Because Congress passed eminent domain.
Break it down.
Eminent domain means we are now going to reveal what we knew from 1789, that you never really owned anything. And now the international bankers have said we are taking everything, land, property, people, and white people are now scared to death. You are going to see the same thing happening in Iraq will be happening here. Sandra Day O'Connor was the only one who did not want to deal with the eminent domain, she and someone else. They killed 2 of her relatives. See the movie Pelican Brief. They killed 2 of her relatives and she retired. Let me tell you something about being a Supreme Court justice. That is one of the most powerful positions on the planet. In fact, they're the ones who set the laws for by which you will be governed. You do not retire. You die in that office.
Right?
Point 2, condescending rice.
Right?
Very quietly resigned her post. It was announced on CNN 3 and then pulled because Bush went ballistic.
It was not done.
Because she knew what time it is. Everybody who is in government now, there are people, the war is getting ready to come down because the UN troops are here. The capital of the United States is no longer Washington. It's New York. And Bill Clinton is going to be elected President of the United Nations. The United Nations is who functions as the receiver for your IRS tax dollars. When you see that, if you were to send the IRS a check, you will see the UN stamp in behind it. Today. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about AIDS. Yes, brother.
Brother Phil, in the word chemotherapy, you got the word chemical, okay? Now, the so-called HIV cure, can you break down just some of the so-called chemicals that they're using that kills the so-called patient?
AZT is the first first drug that was touted by the pharmaceuticals for use against this alleged disease way back by 1990. All of a sudden, 89, 88, they said, we're going to be trying this new disease. And at the time, this new drug, and at the time they said that, if you remember, they still didn't know what was causing it. They began recommending a cure before they knew the cause, which meant they already had everything orchestrated. The AZT, you find out, zidovudine, was a chain terminator. It was a drug used in the cancer industry. It was one of the protocols used, remember I told you, in the former cancer industry. They took it, AIDS was so lethal, brothers and sisters, they never got a patent for it. Which means it was an illegal drug pushed on the people. AZT is so deadly, and all derivatives thereof, that you have to have specific clothing wearing it while you handled it. I had the unfortunate appointment to be with Brother Stokely Carmichael towards the end. Dr. Ann Brown, myself, and Brother Curtis Cost. I was asked by Brother Curtis Cost and called by Brother Eric Muhammad at the time to go up and see if I could talk to Brother Kwame. And we went there and we sat in the living room with Brother Kwame, and I could see the death mask. Now, when he went up and left for a moment before we talked, Sister and I and Brother were looking at one another like, what are we going to do? Brother was still chipper. Brother had the warrior spirit. He was there. He was fighting it. And he sat next to me here. And he said, well, talk to me. Now, Dr. Ann Brown started first. She told him what this whole AIDS paradigm was. Brother Curtis Cost was giving him all of the things that the scientists were saying. And I simply said to the brother, masking it in my thing, we as brothers and sisters fighting the power always end up going back to the power for help. It don't make no sense. And then I said, well, who is the doctor? Who's your doctor? Well, you know, I'm working. And he says, I'm fine, man. I'm working with Dr. Barbara Justice. And I said, Nurse came out of the room with gloves on because he had a tray of food. And the tray of food was piled with meat and cheese and all kind. I said, this is a sick man. And I'm sitting there, my heart is sinking. I'm saying, no, they're killing the man. He ain't got no time left. And when we left that house, there was this somber silence between the three of us. We couldn't say anything. And we didn't talk. But the sister came out with pills. There must have been about 8 or 9 bottles of these pills that he had to take. And she popped out 2 and 3 at a time as he took those pills before he ate. And I watched them killing him. But what am I going to do? I'm sitting before royalty, and he is cut short that Dr. Barbara Justice was going to take him to see him. And all the other doctors who said, you'll be all right. And then I got an interview in the Village Voice, which raised an uproar because I was out against it. It was right here when the Village Voice came in and took a picture of it. I think you remember that time. Got calls from all over. You know, what you mean? What you saying about Kwame? I said, what do you mean, what am I saying about Kwame? I'm just speaking the truth. I was just completely torn apart, and I made it my business that I would never stop. Anytime I would be called to talk about AIDS, I'd be there. This is why I'm here. That's the only reason I'm here. I'm going to show you something. See, I keep a lot of stuff. Amsterdam News, 1990. A white cure for AIDS, an African cure for AIDS, or just a cure. No such animal. It never existed. There is no cure for something that does not exist. The AIDS mission to Kenya, and this was the group now. And remember, the people writing these editorials really believe it. We found a cure. But you see, there was a lot of subterfuge going on. Because after Sanderford came back, what's his name? What was the brother's name? Yes, Cedric Sanderford, brother from Howard Beach. They didn't tell you all the dirt that went on, but a brother from Village Voice, what was that brother's name? West Indian brother that writes for the Village Voice.
Peter Noel.
Peter Noel. He did a scathing what do you call it? Blew up everybody. Told how they left the brother in the airport in Germany. How when he came back from Africa, they made this huge announcement about how he was healed. But that the brother, all of a sudden, had to go back for a few more treatments. Also, that people were mortgaging their houses to get up enough money to pay for the new Kemron treatments to go over to Africa. And he says, this time it was different. This is what he's saying, that the Post didn't say nothing about it, white medias ain't saying nothing about this cure, because they know there ain't no cure. And it says here, this time it was different. A real doctor, Dr. Barbara Justice. A real talk show host, Gary Bird, WLIBAM. 2 real AIDS patients, Cedric Sanderford, Victor Isaac, Howard Beach, and Effie Harvey. A real television production crew by Minister Brown, founder of the highly respected Transatlantic video company, along with crew and associate, Ms. Dolores Buck and other eminent Black New Yorkers who either made the trip or who supported the effort financially. But see, the deal was that when brother, see the thing was working, so the spirit is always working. Brother, it was, remember when they were broadcasting out of the Apollo Theater?
Live.
Live. I was invited by Lloyd Strayhorn to come on to the show because there was a portion when Lloyd would talk about numbers in you, but then he would do an invite, an invitation, and he would talk about it. In Africa, Clemson Brown called me from Africa and said, man, I'm over here and I can't believe what I'm listening to. He said, I got to show this to you, but I can't, so I'll fax it to you. The Kenyan Medical Association said, this is the Kenyan Medical Association, the people who conducted the test said that Cameron was not, repeat, not found to be successful. And he said, please don't tell anybody where this came from. I can tell it now. But he said, man, what you've been saying, here. And he faxed it, and the thing was on that old fax paper, so if you handle it wrong, it'll run, or you smudge it. That's back then. Then I came, and I did that show with Lloyd Strayhorn. And I began talking. He said, well, what do you think? I said, you know, health is this and health is that, and look at the AIDS strip. And Ray says, well, Lloyd said, well, what about the AIDS? He says, well, somebody's telling me that some doctor is telling them that they got a cure. And it's from Africa. I said, well, if it's from Africa, wouldn't a bushman from the bush come in and say, here's the herbs, cure my people? You're going to a doctor trained in Oxford University and in Yale and the rest of these, and he's got a clinic that the CDC paid $5 million to conduct this test in to find that this was successful, and you're going to tell me that this, whoa! Gary walked from behind the curtain and said, yes. Why? I'm saying, why is Gary stopping the truth? Because me and Gary, tight. You remember all the times we would be on the radio, busting out the truth about health. Here I am. Am I lying now? Why would I be lying now? Why are we not investigating this AIDS thing to its fullest? The brother cut us off in mid-sentence. And there was dead air for 5 minutes because we and he were arguing off stage. I'm saying, brother, this is me. But I found out that Percy Sutton put it out there that AIDS was going to be promoted in the community as real because too much money was to be made if it was not. And I was whiteballed from LIB for 3.5 to 4 years. I wasn't invited back on again. Couldn't get on. But of course, Dr. Barbara Justice would be talking all about it. Of course, she came out in the open and started saying, and I'm talking names because you know me, I do. I don't have to hide anything because I can back up everything I say. And she was saying, I don't give AZT. I don't do AZT in my community. Sister stopped me down the block from the Slave Theater on my way home. And she asking me for some money. And she says, I'm not a drug addict. I'm not a drug addict. I got AIDS. I got AIDS. And she said, whoa, wait a minute, I know you. She said, you that brother who talk about AIDS and you talk about you don't believe it. And you talk about, hey, I'm going to tell you something. I go to Barbara Justice. And guess what? She went in her pocket, came out with AZT. Then I find out from Curtis Cost that in the office, who was the dude who did the polio vaccination? Salk, and what was the other one? Sabine. I found out that it was either Salk Salk Institute or the Sabine Institute, one of them, was funding Barbara Justice and 3 doctors to do experiments in the black community. Curtis Gost taped one of the African doctors and asked them, "Are you telling the community what's going on in here?" And the doctor said, "Well, no." And he got him on tape saying, "Well, do you think that's ethical?" He started laughing. He said, "No." I know, well, I guess, but I guess he's working, he's got to get some money. But they were paid to conduct experiments in the community, either on AIDS or some other disease that they were dealing with.
That's also recently so we can find out that these doctors, European doctors, are doing the same kind of test on young children.
Of course, in the Catholic hospitals. We broke that we broke that information about the conducting of medical experiments on orphan children or on foster children right here, as a matter of fact. Yes, first brother and then the sister.
I knew some people that were like using drugs, right? And they were telling me about you can volunteer in Colombia in certain hospitals for them to give you AIDS. And they would pay you a couple of $1,000 to give you AIDS.
Yes.
My friend said, I couldn't believe it.
Well, notice that they began to take back the poisonous or virulent material in the AZT or in the AIDS diseases, in the AIDS protocols, the cures. They began pulling back the poisonous after everybody was saying, wait a minute, these things are saying that these drugs cause AIDS. Why are you giving people who have a supposedly repressed immune system a drug that causes AIDS? So what they've done now, they've changed it into this cocktail, which is essentially an attenuated amount of different various drugs that kill you more slowly. Because they find out now that an AIDS patient, a bona fide AIDS patient, is worth to a doctor over $185,000. From your medical, from your Blue Cross, Blue Shield, whatever those medical insurances, $185,000. So they said, we can't kill them too quickly. So now with an attenuated amount of poison, you can live a little longer. Yes, sir.
I need your help.
Yes.
On one hand, you say AIDS doesn't exist, but we're talking about AIDS patients.
Well, you have to understand, I am using what it is that they are classifying.
Okay, so these people who they classify as having AIDS.
Yeah.
Okay. It seems that your message to us is to encourage people not to take these drugs.
Not to take the test even.
Okay, don't take the drugs, don't take the test.
That's right.
Okay. Now, I had asked this question before, and I'm not sure that I got the answer. Like, people who are being told that they have AIDS, okay, what do they have? What they're dying of are the drugs they're being given.
What is what there?
The people, so essentially the people who are told they have AIDS or HIV, what they're really dying of is the drugs that they're being given to fight what they don't have.
Exactly. In other words, the drug slowly begins to kill off all chances for them to fight whatever it is that they have.
And a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that we don't vaccinate our children?
I'm not even suggesting. I am definitely telling you not to.
I ask that because I think that my son is part of that cohort that has autism as a result of that vaccination.
Of course he did. The autism is the direct cause.
Yeah, and so I was talking to his pediatrician about that. She's of the church.
Yes.
The
The medical church, yes.
So she was saying to me that, because he's high functioning autism, he'll probably get through life. But that had he not been vaccinated, that he might have contracted diseases, and the doctors these days don't recognize these childhood diseases that we all had, and survive. And so that since they don't recognize it, since, that's something to the loss that your kid would be at risk.
Well, here's the deal. Number one, I'm going to explain the vaccination paradigm to you. And number two, my queen right there, Dr. Nalani, she is also a doctor of naturopathic medicine, and she is a master at Reiki. Also, she practices craniosacral biodynamics, which gets right to the brain fluid, works with the brain fluid. So if you want, you can speak with Sister about conducting over a course of time certain things that might work. How old is he?
10.
Okay, he might be a little bit better at dealing with that. Some of the harder ones are the little ones, like 7 years of age, 6 years of age. The vaccination paradigm is particularly insidious because they make you believe that you can somehow encourage the body to create a strategic defense system.
You also think that you have to do it legally.
Again, you don't.
I know that now.
Yeah.
We have to think about it.
And I want everybody participating in this and not just listening, because if you have some questions, I'm here. Okay? This time, it's very, very cheap. If you want to see me, it's not so cheap. Because this is all I do, essentially. I gave up working for him. And I try to wear as much of my people's clothes that they make as possible.
And Dingle Brothers.
Yes. Why is it that vaccination is so insidious? Because vaccinate, Brother Jack Felder, everybody. Why is it that the vaccination paradigm is so particularly insidious? Vaccinations are completely against the laws of nature. Why? Because the vaccination paradigm is dealing with circumventing the natural process of disease. The body is already protected by a layer, and it's called your skin. It's directly connected to your lungs for your breathing. Below the skin is the mucous membrane. Inside your body, you have these two primary agents for defending your body against disease. The problem with vaccination is that the substance that they put into your blood would never, ever have gotten into your blood in the first place. Because your skin would have protected you, and the mucous membrane would have forced that out of you through a cold or through your nose. These reactions to quote-unquote disease, which is actually health, revealing itself through another, more proactive expression. Health has so many variable expressions. One of them is disease. People look at health and disease as two distinct things. They are not. Disease is an outgrowth of health. When something is offending the inner dynamics of the body, the intelligence of the bloodstream, the intelligence that created you, immediately goes to work. All of what you feel, the coughing, the headaches, the dynamics of weakness, the nausea, all of these are the intelligence creating conditions to remove the offending matter. What the doctors make you believe is that these are wrong, and we've even adopted it into the sociosemantics. What's wrong? What's wrong? Are you all right? What's wrong? There's nothing wrong. Everything is right. And the funny thing about it is, by the time you feel the symptom on the surface, your body has been at least 2 weeks on the job getting rid of that material. So for 2 weeks, without your noticing, the body was working the offending material to a place, or already getting it to the place where it can get rid of it. You feel it in your lungs, because this being the largest, it will throw it into the largest organ for expectoration. Now you're trying to cough it out, sneeze it out. You're taking drugs to suppress what the intelligence was trying to do.
Write it down.
With that, you have now caused the body to have to stop the process of elimination and sequester the material into the fatty tissue, adipose, or areas of the body that it will have the least effect on, so that it can now turn its attention to the poison that you just introduced into it. But with it turning itself away from the offending material, the symptoms that was removing the offending material disappears. And you say, ah, relief. This herbal tonic got rid of my cold and helped me get through it. This pill got rid of this shot. No, it didn't. It suppressed the divine intent to save your life. And in so doing, created conditions for the future. Now, your body has to now garner, accumulate from the organs, tax certain systems in order to regenerate itself for one more push somewhere down the line to get rid of the offending material. And hopefully you wouldn't stop it this time. But with another cold, you go up there and you got at least 50 different drugs within an hour's time on TV to tell you to suppress symptoms when the cause was already dealt with, and the symptoms was the end product of the effect or what the divine intelligence that created you instigated to save your life. This brother first, and then you sister.
You answered the question. I was going to ask, when you have a headache, you take a Tylenol, and the Tylenol, your body, but you have a headache, you take a Tylenol, and you're really suppressing another side of it, is what you're saying? Suppressing
Okay, here's what I'll show you. There are certain thresholds of nervous energy that creates conditions of pain in your body. When you have a headache, when you take an aspirin for the headache, the aspirin doesn't take the headache away. What it does is it heightens or intensifies the headache to a point where you no longer feel it. Momentary relief, yes, but the problem is it doesn't take away the problem itself. There are other ways for you to assist through essential oils. Essential oils, I mean therapeutic grade essential oils, are the best thing on the planet for assisting because they have hyperoxygenated qualities that go directly through the skin and into the bloodstream, and once it is used in the bloodstream, evaporates out of the pores. You can talk to me or the Sister Queen about that if you want to know how to deal with going through trials with essential oils, how it helps to enhance your healing process. Yes, brother.
Yeah, I'm going to say something. I remember, the way, when in 1970 something, when they came and described, very department when they described what AIDS is sent home to Dutch. Described that people most of the time have diarrhea, nausea, and all that kind of stuff. But I remember when I was in Haiti, in 1960, the people used to complain, but that was symptom, specifically the fact to things like that. I remember they used to have diarrhea. That was way back in 1960, 1959, you know, things like that. But you know, in Haiti at that time they didn't have no respect for fact. So when they used to have diarrhea, you know, get diarrhea become skin. The same thing they described, you know, when you have AIDS, things like that. But that was since 1960. You know what I'm saying? So of course, they did not receive no drugs, they didn't know nothing about AIDS at that time. And most of the time, these people who look before they die too. But they still die. They were skinny with diarrhea. People were still left with them, you know, all the time. But I think the only reason they died because they did not change the condition that they created to be in that position.
Right.
Because they didn't receive no help, they just still died.
Right.
But probably they did not really reverse.
Well, poverty
You
and
know, they come, you know.
You want to paraphrase what you said?
yeah, what he was saying was there were conditions in Haiti where people were having certain symptoms like diarrhea, but they were dying from their symptoms.
Yeah, even though they didn't receive any drug,
Yeah.
from limits.
Because essentially, when you get sick and you do not have proper water, the stress that's down in Haiti
And
itself,
they did not change the condition.
that's it.
But
That's why I was saying poverty and malnutrition have become the causal agents. In other words, they have now recharacterized and restructured AIDS so that in Africa, poverty and malnutrition now becomes an HIV component. So they're playing games.
yeah, I heard
They're
that.
operating with us in games. Yes, sir.
Hotel brothers and sisters. I just want to do something before we continue. One brother wants to see you personally. This guy has to leave now, so we want your number. Is that
Okay, yeah. Anybody who wishes to get in contact with me, my number is 718-264-9497. Area code 718-264-9497. If you cannot reach me, you can call Dr. Nalani at area code 914-592-2221.
call me?